If you are a startup looking for some education from a manufacturing perspective, stick around because today we're going to talk about the rule of five. Hello, everybody. I am Mike, the Conscious Capitalist, coming from Warsaw, Poland. In the last video, we had a short case study about making prototypes, and as I mentioned, the rule of five. Quite simply, the rule of five means whatever costs the factory one should cost the final customer five. So let me go over to the Google Sheet here. I'm going to blow up to 200%. And I want to say 1 and 5. Factory cost, customer price. Because you have factory, then the brand. Sometimes that is both. Then you have distributor, which also sometimes you could be working as the factory, brand, and distributor. Then you sell to a store who sells to a customer. And that's the value chain that we're talking about here. So today, as you can see, I'm going against my desire to put out simple videos. I'm doing a Google Sheet screencast because of the math involved. I recommend that you open a Google Sheet or Excel sheet if you want to follow along. And finally, before we get started, if you want to download this sheet from my Google Drive, please reach out in the comments and I will give you a link. As a disclaimer, this video is full of generalizations. I highly recommend that you learn your own market and the sales channels within it. Moving on, I would also like to say that the rule of five does not apply to all industries because of profit margin differences, but it works well in retail markets for non-electronic products. This is a rule to ensure that all parties can earn revenue in the supply chain. And while you might be tempted to cut out the middleman, and I definitely encourage you to try to do so, the fact is that some stores will only buy from a middleman, and let's call them by their real name, distributor. Why would stores only want to buy from a distributor? I'll give you a few seconds to think about it. The answer is if they had separate invoices for every product that they sold in the store, they would need a team of accountants and paper pushers. So instead, they work with distributors and purchase from their catalog. A pro tip from me is if you are making sales calls and you run into a store who tells you that they only buy from distributors, please ask them if they would be willing to give you an introduction. After all, distributors are always looking for quality items. Now I'm going to go over some markups and some margins. These markups are important because if you decide to cut out the middleman, but you still price yourself too low, you will never be able to sell to a distributor. So here is an example. You want to buy a ball and the cost is 10. You want to have a markup of 130%. 130% markup. Now this is the same as multiplying by 10.3. We'll press equals, we'll do 10 times 130, which gives you the result of 13. So here we have the sales cost minus the cost of the item, and that gives you your profit. It's a gross profit. This is the gross profit, and now just very quickly, we're going to talk about profit margin. So your profit margin, this is a bit of a formula, very simple one. A profit margin equals parentheses, the cost to the consumer minus the cost that you paid for it, close parentheses, and then divide by the cost to consumer. And this will give you a percentage. Here you can actually go into format as a percentage. You'll see that the profit margin of this is 23%, which is much different than the markup. So something for me as the manufacturer, if it cost me manufacture cost and produce. If it costs me 5, I always need to sell it for at least 135% markup, which means that something that cost me 5 to produce, I always have to sell for at least $6.75. If you're a brand that turns around and sells it for at least 135 markup too, what happens? We'll say 135%. The result of selling something that you purchased for by 135% is about $9. Now, a distributor markup might be around 140%, and now the result is about $12.75. Now, the brick and mortar, they want to have a markup to double their money. Now, they have a huge amount of risk with everything that goes into having a store, and typically, depending on the industry, some stores are trying to double their money. So 1275 times 200%. So here is more or less the rule of five. You can see by the time the manufacturer pays something that costs five and you sell it to the brand, who sells it to a distributor, who sells it to a store, who has the final customer price of 25.50, but this also gives a range for the brick and mortar to give sales. This is how the rule of five works. If this number here for your product, whatever it is way more than a customer would be willing to spend. For example, in the previous video, if it cost me 100 to produce a yoga mat, I highly doubt a customer is willing to spend $500 on a yoga mat. Maybe, just maybe, if we were doing direct to consumer with proper marketing, we could sell it between 135 and 185. Let me go ahead and format these cells. I'm going to hit the Command or Control button, I believe, on Windows to highlight multiple cells. I just want this to be a little bit easier for you to read. I'm also going to mark them in light green. That way it's easier for you to see the prices. So this works for many things. And if you're wanting to use this calculator and you are the manufacturer itself, you can go ahead and just break this formula. Everything will go to zero and you can put in your price as the brand. You can do the same thing for distributor. This is basically how the rule of five works. Again, this shows you as well what prices that you should be trying to sell to if you're selling to stores. If you have a product that fits within this model, the store should be okay with spending somewhere around $12. I want to show you really quick this 3.7 multiplier that I mentioned before. So we're going to take the final customer price and we're going to divide that by the price you purchased it. And you can see right here that it's 3.78. And that is, as I mentioned, the multiplier 3.7. So if you are buying a product from Alibaba or something for $10 and you have your 3.7 multiplier, that means that your customer should quite simply be willing to spend $37 or more if you plan on being able to sell this through a distribution channel. And that's to make sure that everybody can get their margins. This rule of five can make or break a brand. It can make or break a product. So when I'm interviewing with a client, the first thing I ask them is, what price target do you have? Now, this usually makes brands kind of quiet. For some reason, they don't want to tell me what price they want to sell their item at. And one might think to themselves, the reason is because they don't want me to charge them too much money if they're going to go out and sell it for a high price, right? Maybe they want to see me produce it for as low of a price as possible so they can sell it for high as a price as possible. But I need to be able to understand your market, right? So if you think that something should be selling for 100, the rule of five tells me that I need to be able to produce this item for at least $20 or less. If the item costs me $40, then it doesn't fit within the rule of five. And so that's why I like to start from the retail price goal and work backwards. There's a lot of things that you can do in manufacturing to, I don't want to say cut cost, but determine the final value of the product. Different kinds of hardware, different qualities of fabric, etc., all go into the final cost of the product. So thank you very much for sticking with me through this math lesson. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is a brand new channel, and that's the best way to grow it. I also would love to get more comments and feedbacks rolling in. Let me know how else I can help you, and join me next time when we talk about materials.